We are beginning Unit 2, Myths and Legends. Over the next several days, we are going to have the opportunity to read and study several of the Greek myths that are alluded to in the lightning thief. Now, you may be like, what does alluded mean? And so the word alluded is means to play beside. So Percy Jackson has a lot of myths built into it, and Rick Riordan has alluded to them or hasn't really told the story of the myth, but he's relating to it or referring back to it. But it helps you understand the story if you know those myths and legends. So we're going to be using this notebook to take notes in throughout this whole unit. And we're going to be learning some vocabulary words first. So in section 1, if you go to section 1, you're going to see it's a word catcher. And word catcher is just a place that we're going to be taking notes over words, vocabulary words. And so it looks like this. So it kind of looks like a word wall. But if I zoom in here, I can see that this word catcher is used to keep new words that we're learning in Unit 2. And it says mark literary words with an asterisk. And so what does that even mean? So if it was a word that's not in the story, but it's a word that we're learning to help us understand different pieces of text, we're going to put an asterisk by it. And so I'm going to give you an example of that. So I said that Percy Jackson or Rick Riordan has alluded to, oops, and I'm using the button above the 8 or with the 8, and so I'm doing shift and then the button 8, and I'm going to write alluded or allusion. And so he has played beside or alluded to other texts or other myths in his text. Also, we learned a new word in our lesson today, and it was inference. And sometimes we have to infer or make an inference, which is an educated guess based on the clues in the story to help us figure out what's going on. So we are going to be inferring a lot in our stories that we're reading, as well as alluding to other mythology or myths in The Lightning Thief. So I'm going to move down to section 2, which says myths and legends, and we're going to try to find the main idea. But before we do that, we're going to find vocabulary words and understand the story. So on page or slide 5, we are going to see this section 2. And this is called Myths and Legends, and it's the first page of the book that you just got that's called Myth and Legends. And so I'm going to read it to you, and then we're going to try to figure out what these vocabulary words, which are in bold text, what those mean. So I'm going to read the whole thing first for you, and then we're going to go back and see if we can figure it out. So if you want to follow along in your book, it's the first page. In appearance, the gods were supposed to resemble mortals, but they were more beautiful, strong, and tall. They resembled human beings in their feelings and habits, marrying one another and having children, and needing daily nourishment and refreshing sleep. The Greeks believed that their gods were much smarter than men, but that the gods still had human feelings and passions. We often see the gods motivated by revenge, deceit, and jealousy, but they always punish the evildoer, especially any mortal who neglects their worship. We often hear of the gods descending to earth and visit mankind. Often, both gods and goddesses become attached to mortals and have children with them. These children are called heroes or demigods and were usually known for their great strength and courage. But although there were so many points of resemblance between gods and men, only the gods were immortal. They possessed the power to make themselves invisible and could disguise themselves as men or animals. They could also transform human beings into trees, stones, or animals, either as punishment for their misdeeds or to protect the individual from danger. Most of these divinities lived on the summit of Mount Olympus, each possessing his or her individual home and all meeting together on festive occasions in the council chamber of the gods. Men built magnificent temples to honor and worship the gods with the greatest solemnity. So we're going to try to figure out what some of these words mean. So I'm going to come back to the top here, and I'm going to just make comments as we go. So the first word we see here is deceit. And I'm going to just add a comment so we can remember what this means. And so when I read the words around it, I can tell that it's something that's not good. So we often see the gods motivated by revenge, deceit, and jealousy. And so I know the word deceiving, which means like being sneaky or hiding something. And so deceit is the action of doing that. So it's deceiving someone or concealing or misrepresenting the truth. So it's, and so I'm going to just put this in here, this concealing or misrepresenting the truth. And then I'm going to come back over to my word catcher and I'm going to add the word deceit. And if I need to help take notes, I can do this. And I'm going to just put page 5, which is on my slide 5, to help remember if I need to remember what that word means. So remember, I have the word deceit here, and we can see that it's concealing or misrepresenting. Okay, we're going to go down to immortal. So, but although there are many points of resemblance between gods and men, only the gods were immortal. Well, I remember that mortal means to die, and that prefix means opposite of, so not die. So immortal means the ability to live forever. So if I come back over here, I'm going to add the word immortal and page 5. All right, we're going to come down to divinities. Most of these divinities lived on the summit of Mount Olympus. So I remember divinities, I know the word divine, and that means above or better than. And so these are a divine being, which means just another word for God or goddess. So it's somebody that's above a human. So if I remember divinities, page 5. And we have one more that we're going to look at, and that's solemnity. And I can see that most men built magnificent temples to their honor and worship the gods with the greatest of solemnity. And so that means of dignity or majesty. So they looked up to them a lot. So majestic. So I can remember that solemnity. So I can add that here as well. And page 5. So you're going to continue adding, and if we need to make these smaller as we go, we can. So I have them on 14-point font. You can make them, I'm going to put them down at 10, so then we can fit more words in there. So that would be a suggestion I would do for you, or suggestion for you, is to make these words smaller, because you can always zoom in.